Bitcoin, as I say, is the magic mirror that exposes you to yourself. If you are not really that great character, Bitcoin will make you worse. And if you're basically a good character, Bitcoin will make you a better person. And Andreas Antonopoulos was a guy who was already a very soulful guy who had other people's interests at heart, and he became a great educator and was a great guy for orange-pilled many people. Michael Saylor, similarly, Bitcoin took a very successful businessman and made him really an educator and a leader, and he's become a phenomenal success. Bitcoin has boosted what was already there. If you're Craig Wright, you're already cracked to begin with, and you're now going to prison. If you're a Do Kwon, you're already a crook from the moment you came out of your mother's womb. Now you're going to prison, right? So it reflects who you are, it accelerates who you are, and this is the thing about Bitcoin we all need to understand, is that the day of reckoning is coming, and you need to be right with Satoshi. Otherwise, you're going to get crushed by Satoshi.
Bitcoin maximalist Max Keiser warns that as Bitcoin gains prominence in the global financial system, both individuals and nations must adopt it to avoid serious consequences. He draws a parallel to the introduction of gunpowder, suggesting that those who failed to adapt were left behind. Keiser stresses the urgency of embracing Bitcoin, highlighting Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s proposal to include Bitcoin on America's balance sheet as a strategic move. He argues that leaders who don't adapt may be left behind in what he calls World War Bitcoin. Stay tuned until the end of the video to hear Max Keiser's eye-opening insights on the importance of Bitcoin adoption. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news.
The relationship between Trump and El Salvador and President Trump is excellent, and it was during his first term, and I'm sure it'll be excellent during his second term. The past week, there was some tension in the air and a bit of controversy for a couple of different reasons. I think that when President was speaking, he went off the cuff and kind of went on a sidebar and spoke extemporaneously about the situation at the border. Just in the past few days, a Salvadoran national attacked somebody in the U.S., and so this, triggered that kind of sentiment in his mind. And, he gets away with saying lots of stuff and not getting a lot of pushback. But in this case, I felt immediately that this would be an opportunity to actually push back a little. And then he doubled down and said something else, and people were like, hey, Max, you were right. This is not correct to be making these statements because they're materially wrong. They're factually incorrect. And he was suggesting that El Salvador is dumping violent criminals into the U.S. That's absolutely incorrect.
They're dumping their criminals into the United States of America, and we're not going to take it anymore.
The truth is that during the Clinton administration, they were dumping gang members from Los Angeles, MS-13, into El Salvador, and that became the gang problem in El Salvador. It was exported to El Salvador from the United States, and that story, I think, needs to be refreshed, that people understand that's the true story, and that the remarkable progress that's been made by President Bukele is even that much more remarkable. Number two, to give you more context, there was CPAC, and both President Bukele and Trump spoke at CPAC, and everyone was talking about President Bukele. He was the star of CPAC. And, Donald Trump, I think, feels a little jealous that the President Bukele is really the most popular leader in the free world. He's young, he's very smart, he's dynamic, he's done absolutely fantastic things in the country. So there's a bit of rivalry there. But I think, the new administration there won't be any problems. I know that Don Jr. has been to El Salvador and met with the president. You have Matt Gaetz has been there more than once. He's actually buying property there. There's now an El Salvador caucus in Washington, D.C., which will be very active. And so I think this whole past week will be forgotten. I kind of amplified it a bit just because I thought that it would cause a little drama, which why not?
Right.
That's kind of what I'm good at anyway, stir the pot a little bit and without getting thrown out or arrested. That's always the challenge for me, is to stay out of jail. So I think that all went okay. Donald Trump was making a speech about America, and the contrast to RFK is that RFK said, we're going to put Bitcoin on our balance sheet. That's great, because that's what you need to do in World War Bitcoin. If you don't have Bitcoin, you're going to get beaten by Bitcoin. Just like when gunpowder came around, if you didn't have gunpowder, you were taken over by those forces that did have gunpowder. And this is what I think is underestimated by most people, is the importance of Bitcoin in this current environment where fiat money is going to be evaporated completely and go to nothing. Gold's being demonetized. Society is crumbling. The nation state model is crumbling. The central banks are crumbling. And Bitcoin is your ticket to sanity. I'll finish with one last thing, which is that I started tweeting recently about my journey in Alcoholics Anonymous. So in 1988, I started in AA, so I'm celebrating 36 years, the 30th of July, as a matter of fact, so coming up in 3 days, it'll be 36 years. So in AA, you come with an alcohol addiction, but to stay sober is a spiritual journey. And similarly with Bitcoin, you come for number go up, but it's really, it becomes a spiritual journey, in my opinion, the way I see it, and I've seen it now longer than most, right? And I've seen a lot of things come and go, and I've experienced many things in the Bitcoin world, and I really see it overlapping the alcoholics, my journey in recovery in Alcoholics Anonymous as well. So again, getting back to authenticity, sobriety allowed me to be more of my authentic self. Bitcoin does the same thing. I feel alive, and I can always feel more alive. I'm talking to you, I'm talking to people out here. I like meeting people and hearing what they're up to, because that energizes me, because nothing's more interesting than other human beings. The key word there is exponential, right? The network effect and the doubling effect that happens every year or every however many months, like Moore's Law or something, Bitcoin's doubling effect, the network effect. And we saw it with the internet. So the internet in the 90s was bouncing around, and we got to like 300 million users. And then around 1997, I believe, Netscape went public. And that was the moment that suddenly went up to 1 billion, 2 billion users. Okay, and with the network effect doubled, and doubled again. So you went 300 million, 600 million, 1.2 billion. Boom, boom, boom. 4 billion, 5 billion. So that's I think we're at that Netscape moment in 2024.
Feels like that.
So I think a year from now, we're going to have triple the users. We'll have Bitcoin at 300, 400,000 a coin. We'll have people are pulled into it. It's like a black hole, if you will. All value, everything goes to zero against Bitcoin in terms of purchasing power. So that means not only fiat money, but stocks, bonds, commercial real estate, fine art, gold. Gold gets demonetized. I mean, Trump did mention gold, and silver. And that's a target that you're going for. And the number go up component of Bitcoin is very compelling, because people are inherently, greedy might be too strong a word, but I think it's, like I've said before, Bitcoin is sent by God for humans to unfuck their money. So the greed portion of our character as human beings is a little over tweaked. It served a purpose, maybe more utilitarian in our previous hunter-gatherer existence. But when you can print money and then buy institutions and buy media and things, now you see what's happened to the culture and society. It's become extremely decadent, and it's collapsing in many ways. So, God is like, I added too much greed in that planet there in universe 12B/9 in the multiverse of God. It's like, I'm gonna come up with a patch. Didn't I send my son down here? What the fuck? What happened to that? Well, you did what? You fucking crucified him? What are you, fucking morons? He's just trying to tell you about love.
Oh, man.
So then he's like, oh man, maybe I should just let these assholes die. Well, I don't know. No, I'll give him one more shot. Send him Bitcoin. Are you sure, boss? Yeah, we'll give him another shot. Send him down some Bitcoin. Yeah, some cypherpunks. We'll see what happens. Oh, here's my friend. How are you? Good to see you. How about you? Good. So he sends down the Bitcoin, and that's where we're at now. And hopefully, the patch works. You know, we hit the Bitcoin singularity, and there's Satoshi waiting for us because, you know, Bitcoin comes from the future. That's why no one knows the author of the white paper, is because it came from the future. We'll discover the author in the future because the author lives in the future. I mean, why don't we know who authored the white paper? I mean, I don't know. Nobody knows who authored the actual white paper. I mean, it's a handwriting sample.
Yeah.
Almost any handwriting sample in the world or written word sample, you can do a search and find out where it comes from, right? How did this one elude so many people? There's a few clues in terms of time zone and some phrases that are used, and you kind of end up maybe geographically here. But it's incredible to me that we do not actually know the actual author of the white paper. The only thing we do know for sure that it's not Craig White, right? Yeah. That's the only thing we know guaranteed for sure. But so, and my conclusion is that it's because it was written in the future. And so Bitcoin is a ladder to the future. You know, the block, the height, the block height is essentially this ladder that's going into the Bitcoin singularity, into the future, and you know, redefining time, energy, and so as a species we have that singularity, and that's where we're headed. You know, this reunion with ourselves. We get to know who we are in the end. That's the end of the story. Is you are who you are. That's the end. So all the gurus and the mystics already tell you that. You say you are who you are. That's the secret of life.
Authenticity.
Right? It's authenticity.
There you go. Yeah.
Okay? So that's why I'm Max Keiser, the ratings riser. And wherever I go, ratings go higher. I simply exude content 24/7. And, you know, every single one of these that's ever been printed throughout history goes to zero. Now, Bitcoin only means that it's going to go there faster and permanently. There will never be, anybody will never attempt to do this again, create this paper Ponzi scheme ever again, once we go into the Bitcoin standard. Okay?
Max Keiser explains that Bitcoin is experiencing rapid growth, akin to the expansion of the internet in the 1990s. He compares Bitcoin's current phase to the pivotal moment when the internet saw a surge in users following events like Netscape's IPO. Keiser believes Bitcoin is at a similar inflection point, where its adoption is set to increase dramatically, potentially leading to a substantial rise in its value. He predicts that Bitcoin could see its user base triple in the near future, and its price reach hundreds of thousands of dollars per coin. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these two awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.